and good evening all. In something of a departure for this channel into the realms of the mainstream, for guide number 50 tonight, we're taking a look at one of the great icons of not only motorsport, but of the automotive and design worlds in toto, and on its 63rd birthday no less, the Jaguar E-Type. Apocryphally dubbed the most beautiful car ever made by no less than Enzo Ferrari upon its debut, the E-Type had its beginnings and underpinnings in the great D-Type Le Mans racers, which took a hat trick of wins at La Sarthe in 1955, 56, and 57, in its final year bringing first, second, third, fourth, and sixth, a performance sufficiently dominant to cause the French to change the rules to disqualify the vehicles for 1958. Along with the 1957 Mille crash, bringing safety back to the forefront. The new remit for JAG's racing department then was to design a single vehicle to replace both the D-Type Racer and the XK150, which had become rather bloated compared to its predecessors, with a revolutionary new model. The first concept, E1A, utilized a monocoque well before Mr. Eric Broadley cottoned to the idea over at Lola, paired with the engine from the XK150 and four-wheel independent suspension, but this car never made it past the testing phase and was scrapped shortly after they moved onto the E2A, utilizing a more conventional chassis setup but designed with a smaller engine to be eligible to compete at Le Mans in 1960. Retiring from the event, it went on to compete under Briggs Cunningham's aegis for the remainder of the season, after which it was returned to JAG in 1961 for testing purposes, and eventually survived to sell in 2008 for a whopping $5 million. The initial production version of the road car, later backnamed as the Series 1, was introduced on this day, on date of release, in 1961 for export. Hooray, happy birthday, and in July of the same year for UK purchasers. For a road car, the technologies employed were advanced, bordering on revolutionary. In addition to a lightweight chassis, the vehicle came standard with good looks, fully independent suspension, disc brakes on all four wheels, rack and pinion steering, and performance statistics that were considerable for the era, courtesy of a 3.8-liter straight-six engine and 4-speed automatic producing 265 horsepower. Top speed was a quoted 150 miles an hour, although, of course, reality was sometimes more disappointing depending on how many workers were on strike during any given production run, and 0 to 60 was given as 6.4 seconds. Later models within the Series 1 did feature a larger 4.2-liter straight-six, along with other changes that improved drivability without impacting the aesthetics of the vehicle. The length of the hood was distinctive, to say the least, as we can see next to a contemporaneous small British sports car, nearly the same length as the front two-thirds of an early MGB, which is still large enough to comfortably fit a 6-foot-tall individual in the driver's seat, with or without convertible top. Further updates to the car were largely prompted by idiotic changes in American traffic safety and emission laws, which to this day prevent us having many of the more interesting cars available in the rest of the world. These updates included the removal of glass headlamp covers, always a shame, a more gawping front grille, and most of the interior switches replaced with cheap plastic units for some reason, although this may have been a cost-saving measure. The Series 3 did receive a nominally compelling upgrade, a 5.3-liter V12 that somehow still managed to produce only 7 more horsepower than the original straight-six and brought no improvements to performance. One would expect it to provide a smoother driving experience, as V12s are inherently about as smooth as you can get with engines, but that's neither here nor there. The Series 3 was nevertheless a larger car in all of its dimensions, improving driver comfort and, in my opinion, aesthetics over the Series 2, although the mandatory 5-mile-an-hour impact bumpers in the US rather counterbalanced the aesthetic benefits. The factory never made a serious attempt at campaigning the E-Type in competition after 1960, although there were several lightweight vehicles constructed or modified for racing events, most notably several lightweight roadsters built and run in collaboration with Briggs Cunningham. First, the aforementioned E2A, with Dan Gurney and Walt Hankson as drivers at Le Mans in 1960, but that retirement, as mentioned, came from head gasket failure after 10 hours, with modified production E-Types managing 4th and 5th, Cunningham again and a full privateer, respectively, in 1962, but only a disappointing 9th overall in 1963 before they gave the campaign up as a bad job. There was also a low-drag coupe modified from the lightweight E-Types as a sort of hybrid between the D and E-Types to the specifications of JAG's chief designer Peter Sayer. Coming in at a mere 920 kilograms, it was inarguably beautiful and quick, taking victories in the 1964 season, but it retired from Le Mans with head gasket failure at hour 16, and would then go on to figure in the death of driver and owner Peter Lindner in a crash during heavy rain at the 1,000 kilometers of Paris in October of that year, along with Franco Patria and three marshals, Jean Berard, Roger Millot, and René Dumoulin. Despite this sad occurrence, the E-Type has enjoyed some of the greatest enduring popularity of any vehicle ever made, both as a collector's vehicle and a historic racer in various states of modification, from essentially stock to fire-breathing track monsters, the likes of which Mr. Sayer could likely have not dreamed. It remains an icon of British and automotive design, and with wishes for a happiest of birthdays to the E-Type, in the words of Ferris Bueller, even though he was talking about what was actually an MGB underneath, but nominally a Ferrari.
It is so choice. If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
That brings us to the end of another video, and for this week's call to action not featuring the 3 sacred words of YouTube.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Remember that allergy season is nearly upon us in most of the northern hemisphere, so it's time to preemptively change your air filters and pick up some of your preferred antihistamine if one is susceptible. Some herbal tea with local honey is always helpful as well. As always, thank you for your time this evening, or whenever and wherever you are watching, and I wish you all a good night and a good tomorrow.